Hi Year 3, this is your Friday comprehension session, and yesterday we looked at the poem that I'm going to go through with you again now. Today you're going to go through the questions. So if you haven't seen yesterday's comprehension session, and watch that first, then we look at some of the high level vocab and some words that are a bit trickier for you to do. And then today we're going to look at our questions. Now I'm not going to help you with the questions, I'm not going to give you the answers this time. I'm just going to go through the text to give you a few hints, and then I'm going to let you get on with it by yourself. So let's start. I'm going to read the poem with you first. So yesterday we discussed the poem and the meaning. So again, if you haven't seen yesterday's comprehension session, make sure you watch that first before this one, and the poem will make a lot more sense for you. So I'm going to read it again, and then we're going to go through some questions. So it's a poem for 4 voices. So here is just the beginning of a horror story. Where will it end? There was a sea, a blue sea, a secret blue sea. And in this sea, there was an island, a spiky green island. And in this island there was a valley, a deep valley, a hot deep valley. And in this valley there was a tree, a vast ancient tree. And in the roots of this tree there was an egg, a historic egg, a prehistoric egg. And in this egg there was a creature, a live creature, a creature so wild, so full of energy. And in a hurricane, a tearing hurricane, a fierce tearing hurricane, that tree cracked to the roots. And out of those roots, those shattered roots laid bare in the howl, climbed the creature, the wild creature, so full of energy, so full of destruction, it shrieked for escape. There was a sea, a blue sea, a boiling blue sea. And in this sea, there was an island, a spiky island, an island in turmoil. It was ready to plunge into the sea, the boiling sea, and swim, swim, swim. So we went through the meaning of what these meant yesterday. I went through some of the trickier words. And we also went through the features of the poem. So we have stanzas or a verse to show that, and it doesn't have to necessarily rhyme as well, despite it being a poem, because not all poems have to rhyme. So we're going to have a look at our questions today. So question 1, it says, do you think the island sounded welcoming at the beginning of the poem? Yes or no, and explain your answer using ideas from the poem. Now this was emailed out to all of you, so you should have a copy of the poem and a copy of the questions. So you have that, you can write on that, or you can just write out your answers on a piece of paper, that's also fine. So it says, do you think the island sounded welcoming? Now remember, we discussed yesterday that as the poem got further in, it became Year 3. For some reason the video stopped there, so I'm going to carry on going to the questions. And what I was saying was, as the poem goes further in, it gets scarier. So more things happen that create more suspense and more things build up. So for this question, it says, do you think the island sounded welcoming at the beginning of the poem? So it started off, so I think it's quite calm, and then things start to happen as the poem progresses. So remember, if you haven't seen yesterday's video, watch that first, but that should hopefully help you answer that question. So question 2, what are the first words in the poem that warn us we should fear the creature? So having a look at the text, where does the creature first come in? So the creature first comes in verse 2, doesn't it? It says, prehistoric egg, and in this egg there was a creature, a live creature. So reading the description, verse 2 and verse 3, what are the first words in the poem that tell us that we should be scared of this creature? What are the words used? See if you can work that one out. Remember to pause the video if you need to. Question 3, find and copy 3 powerful words the poet used in verse 3, so that's this one over here, beginning and in a hurricane, to show the strength of the wind. So the wind is really, really strong. What words does he use in this verse to show us how strong the wind is? So, and in a hurricane, a tearing hurricane, a fierce tearing hurricane, the tree cracked to the roots, and out of those roots, those shattered roots laid bare in the howl, climbed the creature, the wild creatures. Have a think of what words in that verse are used to show the strength of the wind. Question 4. Now remember, each verse, we said a poem for 4 voices. So you've got each line here is numbered, and each line shows a different voice. So what impact does that have on the poet? If you were to read it with different voices, how does that change the poem? Does it make it sound scarier? Does it make it have more of an effect on the reader? Have a think and write that down. It's worth 2 marks. It's quite a tricky one. So if you read those, so line 1 would have a certain voice, line 2, have a think about how that impacts the way you would read and interpret the poem. It's quite a tricky question. Question 5. Why do you think the poet decided to write about a storm at the point in the story when the creature is born? So why have they waited? Why have they put them both together? So the creature is born. It's a scary creature. It's going to cause turmoil. It's wild. It's full of energy. And then there's a storm also causing destruction. It's got lots of energy. Why have they put them together? Why did he put them both happening at the same point in the story when the creature is born, the storm starts? What do you think that has? What impact does that have on the poem? Question 6. The last verse begins by nearly repeating the lines at the beginning of the first verse. So here you've got there was a sea, a blue sea, a secret blue sea. And at the end, on the last verse, it goes, there was a sea, a blue sea, a boiling blue sea. Why do you think the poet changed the word from secret? Secret's quite calm, quiet, to verse 4, boiling. Do you imagine if you're quite angry, you might get to a boiling point, things are starting to bubble over. Why have they changed it from secret to boiling? Explain why he used both of those words in the poem. Question 7. There are 4 verses in this poem. You've got to complete this table to show the main idea of each verse. So verse 1, the main idea is it establishes the setting and introduces the egg. What about verse 2? What about verse 3? And what about verse 4? Think about what each one is showing us. So verse 2, sort of we're looking at the tree and the egg is starting to become more of a prominent part of the poem. Verse 3, the hurricane is starting and the creature is going to appear. So you've got to think about what each verse is representing and what each one is about. Question 8, an island in turmoil. I've done this one yesterday with you. In verse 4, what does the word turmoil mean in this poem? Tick the best option that says turmoil just here. Does it mean order, chaos, calm, or escape? And the last question is, what is the poet's feeling about the creature? Use words from the poem in your answer. So it's worth 2 marks. You'll get 1 mark for showing what you think the poet feels about the creature. Does he like the creature? Does he think the creature is a kind thing? Or does he trying to make people scared of him? What words is he using to change how we feel about the creature? I'm going to write your answer down there. Good luck with your answers. Put them onto Tapestry for us, and then your teacher will look at it on Tapestry as soon as they can. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you as soon as we can. Bye, Year 3.